Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, you Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. Well, what a weekend it's been. Did you see it? Did you see the meteorite, asteroid? What is it? We'll find out a little bit more about it and hope to come up with the right designation. Excellent material from Mr. Bleach this morning, who I thought was one of the theories, actually. At around midnight here in Portugal, we were sat out with friends in what we call the Tunnel of Love, just a little covered part outside our front door. Between our front door and the garage is a little covered area, which is really nice to sit in and has become known as the Tunnel of Love. We're sat there enjoying some Portuguese wine, some lovely food, chatting, and suddenly the sky lit up, a bluey-green color. And I thought, well, that's pretty bright. That's some serious firework action in San Martino de Porto. I'm not aware of a festival or anything like that happening, but that's nice. Whoa. And everyone looked up and saw it. And we heard some fireworks a little bit later and then thought, well, yeah, somebody was letting off a flare of some sort. But as it turns out, we found out later that it was a meteorite flying over the Iberian Peninsula, heading over Spain, over Portugal, and out towards the Atlantic, allegedly. But is that what it was? Because I thought some rumors were spreading that it was Pete popping out at about midnight in his Tesla at high speed to buy more cigarettes and Mars bars from the local petrol station in Fundão. That was one theory. Another was that, you know, those skywriters, where you can have a message, happy birthday message with an aircraft flying over the bay or something like that. Political party ADN apparently co-opted this meteor to make a message about them and their policies for Portugal. Any other theories? Gratefully received this morning. We'll come back to this meteor, the Portuguese meteor, and all the jokes that Pete has supplied to us this morning, as well as anyone else's theories, jokes, and anything else connected. First of all, the Aurora Borealis, and this was just to set the record straight, because we will be doing a lot of fact checking, obviously, this morning. This Northern Lights over San Martino de Porto was indeed a fake. Mr. Richards, what were you thinking causing that sort of mischief from the Algarve? Typical. Right. And what have you been up to this weekend? Somebody in our community was enjoying themselves. Wow. Can you top that this weekend? Thank you very much to John Heimbach as well. Lovely to see you, John. Popped into the bay and brought your family to see us here, or some of your family members to see us. Lovely to meet them all. Dan, Anna, and of course, great to see you, John and Pam as well. Thanks for popping in. Great to see you there for a lovely little drink here at the Storytellers and a little wander up towards the Smugglers Tunnel there. That's what I call it. That's not its official name. And also, thank you very much, Bob, as well, who was in Porto at the weekend with some lovely pictures as well. We'll come back to that. We need to say hello to everybody. We've got James Holly, of course, friend of Slug, joining us at around 9 o'clock this morning for some, as well as it being Meteor Monday, METEOR, Meteor Monday. Pete has made good use of that opportunity for a pun. Yes, so we've got James at 9 and Vitor Costa joining us at 9:30 as well. Maybe with some of the delegates from the Portuguese boot camp, which I fell out of. Not in a bad way. Just life took over, and I'm going to be on their second round. Yeah, such good intentions as well. But I think that's going very well, and Vitor will be along possibly as well with some of the delegates from the course. We shall see a little bit later on. Okay, let's see how that goes. What tastes better, Earth rocks or space rocks? Well, space rocks, of course, says Pete. They are meteor. Oh, my goodness. Or should there be a massive... Actually, we should issue a general purpose dad joke warning this morning. Let me just do this because there's going to be a lot of that sort of thing this morning.
Warning. Warning.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a lot of that, I suspect. Okay, I haven't eaten my Winkies yet. Surprised that neither Mrs. M nor the kids grabbed those and ate them. I've got some gummy bears to eat there later on. Try something Portuguese fun from last week, of course. Have you ever had a Winky? I was wondering why that meteor was getting bigger. Then it hit me. Hey! And who was the first deer in space? Buck Rogers. My goodness, Pete, looks like you were up all night writing these. By the light of a meteor. I heard that there was a restaurant on that meteorite, but I didn't go. According to TripAdvisor, it had no atmosphere. Some serious repurposing. One more. Some serious repurposing going on of other galactic jokes. When I was in the bathroom yesterday, Diane asked me to put ground beef on her head. This is the sort of thing they get up to in central Portugal. She said she had missed it the other night and she wanted a meteor shower. Dear, oh dear. Right, James, bom dia, Campus. Feliz segunda a todos. Como foi a vossa fim de semana? How was your weekend? Let us know. Do let us know. And a mindful moment then. Forever is composed of nows. Of course it is. Emily Dickinson, thank you via James this morning. Hold on a minute. What's going on? Is he tired? He's just simply put James to throw us with his name this week. And mindful dad joke. My wife thinks it's weird that I stare at the window during a heavy rainstorm. It would be a lot less weird if you just let me in. Very good. Coach Turner in also, and his visual memory. He can do himself and take responsibility for a little bit later on this morning. Bom dia, Campos e todos. Bem-vindo a uma nova semana. Back to child wrangling this morning. That'll bring us down to earth, back to earth. Kids have a habit of doing that. They do, don't they? And they like to live in the now as well. Very good. Mindful grandparenting there, whether you like it or not. Bon dia, Carl and Gumpus from a warm grey Belfast, 11 degrees overnight, very warm. Sorry to hear about your mug, Diggle. Very warm Saturday and Sunday, 21 degrees, too warm. Complaining already. Oh, I bought a really nice Bordalo mug, you know, the cabbage ceramics. Bought one of those for Mrs. M. I was going to have my tea in that this morning. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a coffee in that a little bit later on. My vegetable plants coming along great, says Deagle. Grow your own. Lots of stuff, different stages. I've staggered my planting. So from the 1st of June, each month, we have a wee harvest. That's great. And I've got pictures to prove it as well. Flipping heck, Pete. How many pictures have you sent me? Can you send me 3 of your favorites? Otherwise, I've got, I think, 23 images to sort through whilst live on air. I'm trying to figure out which is the best one to share with everybody this morning. They're very beautiful, I've got to say. Having a quick gander at those now. I'm going to go with your lovely sunset, I think, as an opening shot with those. Oh, and Michael Barton, thank you very much. Good to see you. Pictures from our walking weekend with Philomena and her husband. Yes, of course. It looked like that was a lot of fun. That was Philomena, I think, on the zip wire. Couldn't see. And that's a lovely picture of you. Have you been doing a bit of beekeeping as well? She organizes the most amazing trips, doesn't she, that woman, Philomena? tripsforbits@gmail.com. I'll show you those as well. Thanks, Michael. These, of course, all sent in on 913-590-303. They're superb. Why have they got beekeeping outfits on? I wonder. I'm sure Michael will reveal all. Okay, there they are with their That's superb, isn't it? That wants some captioning. I think, is that because the mosquitoes were really bad up there? And it's a Pampolhosa de Serra, isn't it? Look at that magnificent landscape there. Thank you very much indeed. And there you are. Oh, isn't that a nice, lovely moment? A Portuguese moment there. And Peter's sunset as well. As I say, all of these on 913-590-303. Keep them coming, if you will. Yes, beautiful. So who did get to see, who didn't get to see the meteor? I think I was very lucky to see that. Jean's in as well. And there's Michael's own words there. We had a great weekend with Filomena and Pampalosa de Serra as we participated in their walking weekend. And that was, of course, was that right, Michael? Is that Filomena on there? I can't see. And we're quite... No, I'm close enough to see that. And let me just remove your, no offense, but let me just remove your sunset for the moment there, Pete, and come back to our frame. I was watching as well, just to let you know that we have a brilliant Star Wars spoof. Not we, us here, Gumpers, but it was sent to me by Joel Mendonça. Good morning to you, Joel. Always great to hear from you. And you've got your pal Jeff over there in Madeira. And those guys over there who, do you remember a long time, Jeff Gouvier, I think his name is. We spoke to him a long time ago on the show, and he runs 4x4 tours around the islands of Madeira. Probably the main island, I would have thought. Right? I don't know. Maybe it does take you around on the ferry as well. I'm not sure how it works there. Are there ferries between the islands? Do you have to go on an aeroplane? And has he got vehicles parked up in different parts of the island, I wonder? Not sure how that works exactly, but this is really great. It's well worth a watch. Not yet, though. Don't watch it just now. In a galaxy gripped by turmoil, where the force flows through every drop of Poncha. That's, of course, the punch that's made in Madeira. A new chapter unfolds, and they've given it the full Star Wars treatment. It's hilarious. Darth Fabio, under Emperor Fernando's command, seeks to tighten his grip on the sugarcane fields of Madeira. Amidst the chaos, a young guide named Jeff Mountain Walker discovers his connection to the Force. Guided by the wise Jedi Hugo Wan Kenobi, Jeff embarks on a journey to uncover the truth behind the island's mysterious poisoning. Aguardente is scarce, and the Emperor Fernando's control over the Lavadas creates a deeper feeling of oppression amongst the people. As alliances are tested and battles rage, the fate of the Banana Empire hangs in the balance. Thoroughly recommend that to you. And that's over there on the Portugal Club, the link to that. And of course, I popped it in the chat earlier on this morning. For those of you who were here since around 8 this morning, you might have had a chance to pop over there and watch it. Pam's in as well. Bon dia. Thank you for the article you sent to me. That's really tragic reading that, Pam. Very sad indeed. I will get back to you on that. Did have a few thoughts about it. I saw the meteor, you say. Just happened to be looking out the window watching some football fans celebrating in the fountain. And it looked like a Sporting Lisbon tribute, didn't it? With the green lights in the sky. Okay. Thanks, Pete, for that as well. And Paul Richards, the man who created the Aurora Borealis over San Martino de Porto. Greetings from a sunny Algarve, meeting tonight for photographers doing sunsets on the southern West Algarve with Western Algarve photography with Dave Sheldrake. Give him my best. He's a good pal of ours, of course, husband of Ali Sheldrake. Thanks for that, Paul. Hope you're well down there in the Algarve. He's mentioned the sunny Algarve. It's not like him to not mention the weather when we're talking about the Algarve. And yes, of course, we've got a God's God tip of the day coming up right now. God's God tip of the day after a week of sitting exercises. Let's go for lying down. Actually, that would see. I'm exhausted this morning. So busy weekend, and some of those dreams that keep you very that have you tired when you wake up. It was a busy night last night. I was lying down for most of it, all of it, in fact, but still woke up knackered this morning. First one is on your side, so supporting yourself on your forearm elbow. Lift your leg as high as you can. Okay, and then slowly back down again. Repeat 10 times. This is quite yogic, isn't it? Repeat 10 times, then roll over and do the same on the other side. Try to make sure your legs are straight and in line with the rest of your body. Nice and straightforward there, literally. Thank you very much, Coach Turner, for that. Have a great day. And Winsurance appear to be with us as well this morning. Good morning, Carl, and everyone. How are you doing? After the Aurora, Portugal meets the Meteor, turning the colours of the sky. We are living the Icelandic way. Yes, it would appear to be the case, wouldn't it? Any other theories? We excuse me. We perhaps take for granted what we're told, don't we? It's just a meteorite. But was it? Are there any other interesting theories that you've heard? Bon dia todos from Joan. How are you doing, Joan? Good to see you here again this morning. And I think that just about wraps it up for the chat for now. Keep them coming. Do let us know what you've been up to this weekend. I've got some pictures from Bob as well. Bob Wenger, thank you very much. You had a beautiful weekend by the look of it. And I've got a few other random pickies as well. I think these are from you, are they not, Bob? That looks like we're enjoying the view over Porto right there. Let me just see what you had to say. Oh, and the Tesla Cybertruck, is that right? Let me just check this because Colin was at the electric car show, so I think I can show you the Cybertruck, which has finally arrived here in Portugal. I don't know if it was just for the show, and I didn't know if it was a spoof video, because sometimes there are videos, aren't there, that take the mickey out of Tesla. Pete's had to get used to that sort of thing. Gets the last laugh, though, I suspect, don't you, Pete? Porto, Villanova de Gaia, and Crystal Palace Garden on Sunday. Okay, so that's what we're looking at from Bob on the screen this morning. A very fine peacock. There you go. Look at that magnificent creature there. And yeah, of course, the river there, looking down on the river in Porto. Thank you so much for these, and thank you everybody who thinks about us, takes the time to think about us, and not only think about us, but captures a bit of video. Awesome stills for us as well. Beautiful pictures there. Looks like you had a great weekend, Bob. And yes, there's Philomena at the Pampilhosa de Serra with a big smile on her face. She had a busy week last week, didn't she, with all her Turkish friends coming over to learn a bit of English in Portugal. And I think they went off on Saturday to have their last day in Lisbon. Meanwhile, there she is heading off to the Pampilhosa de Serra. So did you collect honey, or was it because the mosquitoes are unbearable up there, Michael? I wonder if you could let us know in the chat. And did you see the meteor? Or do you have any theories about that? This is perhaps the most seen image. I saw the colors. I didn't actually see the meteor flying across the sky, but I saw that color for sure. It was perfectly framed for us as we looked out from our house across the street, and there are houses on the other side of the road. But the sky behind it, whenever there are fireworks in town, we see them. We certainly saw this lighting up the sky on Saturday. Let me tell you a bit more about it then. I liked the coverage from the Watchers, they're called, Watching the World Evolve and Transform. And this is a website that was founded in 2011 on the belief that knowledge is power. We've grown into a trusted source for those seeking in-depth, accurate, and data-rich insights into the dynamic forces shaping our world. Watching the world evolve and transform, they say, a daily specialized news service with a strict focus on Earth, science, and space. So let's have a look at some of their coverage, which is excellent. And there are a few snippets from social media, from X, and some dash cam footage, all the best bits, actually, they've gathered together in one place. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to them especially, and thank you to everybody whose material we're using here, some of which I can't credit you directly, I don't think, but it's great. I mean, I share this with the best of intentions, and just to literally illuminate people, us lot here, our community, on what went on. So an exceptionally bright meteor shower was seen over Spain and Portugal at 22:46 UTC on May the 18th, 2024. So that was local time, midnight and plus 46 in Portugal. Of course, it was an hour less, wasn't it? It was 1:45 midnight rather than 1:45, as I recall, lighting up the night sky with a bright blue glow, bluey green, I would say, having seen it with my own eyes for several seconds, and leaving a persistent trail in its wake. Who doesn't like to leave a persistent trail in your wake, maybe especially when you get out of a lift or something like that? Unconfirmed reports indicate that pieces of the meteor fell in the town of Pinheiro. We need more than that. There are quite a few Pinheiros here in Portugal. Near the town of Castro Daire, approximately 40 kilometers, 24 miles southeast of Pinheiro. Both locations are in northern Portugal. So there may be some meteoric debris in Portugal, yet to be, I'm not aware that it's been found yet. While these reports are plausible based on the fireball's trajectory and its angle of entry into the atmosphere, it is likely that most, if not all, pieces ended up in the Atlantic Ocean. Well, that's convenient. And one thought I had was, do these things happen in the day as well? because it would be amazing, wouldn't it, to see it in the daytime. The meteor, not as dramatic, of course. It wouldn't light up the sky in the same way, but you still see this object flying across the sky, wouldn't you? The meteor was described as unreal, massive, and a once-in-a-lifetime event. I can go with that. And here's one bit of dash cam footage.
Что это? А что это? Блин, а что это было?
Which I think is Portuguese for what the bloody hell was that? Right, here's a bit more. Oh, and this has been turned into a GIF here. I think you can see it flying through the sky there. Flying through the sky, floating on the wind. Look at that. It's amazing, isn't it? Lighting up the night sky there. And another one here. Bit more for you. According to astrophysicist Dr. Giuseppe Trigo of the CSIC IECC, this bolide had a cometary origin. You see, bolides, meteors, meteorites, asteroids, comets, cometary origin, and was on a fairly low trajectory that extended over Caceres, Spain, to Porto, Portugal. This would make the total distance about 300 kilometers, 160 miles. So, I mean, how does it work? I mean, it appeared in the sky over Spain, Caceres, and then flew towards Porto. Okay, while small meteors enter Earth's atmosphere every day, so no big deal, no biggie in that respect, objects as large as this one are seen and recorded over populated areas only once or twice per year, which is interesting, isn't it? And says something about our overall population density of the planet. A lot of it's sea, of course, and then even where there's land, a lot of it uninhabited. So the chances of seeing these things are lessened by that, by my estimation anyway. That's crazy. Mad props to the person who was able to get this footage, one eyewitness wrote on X. So here's a little bit more. That, I think, was a group of scouts who were out just minding their own business, having a bit of fun in the night air, and then suddenly... I love their gasps and cheers. And this young lady, I think, was walking home as well on Saturday night, and she was just doing a bit of selfie filming, looking into her camera, and then this happened. What? What the? What would Richard Feynman say, I wonder? People who witnessed the event are invited to share their observations with the International Meteor Organization, the IMO, using this form, which you can... I'll put the link to that page so that if you do want to report your observations, you can do so. I'm going to stick that into the chat now, and we'll say a few more hellos this morning, and then we'll go to James, because I suspect, although this is Mindful Migration Monday, it is Meteoric Monday as well, and he'll have something to say about it. I think he might have been fast asleep when it flew over us here in Portugal, so he might not have seen it, but I'm sure he'll have something to say about it. Any other theories beyond the normal and more acceptable theories? Glad to entertain here this morning. Knew you would. What's this? It takes value for money to a whole new level. Which walk did you opt for? I suspect Pete's questioning Michael about the walk that was organized by Philomena at the weekend there. Owen, after watching many meteor showers over the years, I'm not convinced. I have a number of apps that notify me of upcoming events. For the meteor or the aurora, I've received no notification. So some funny business, eh? CERN were cranking up their machinery, weren't they, around the time of the aurora borealis? But that might have been because they wanted to capture some nice selfies. You never know, Owen, but thank you for that. Yes, they collected honeycomb. I sent you pictures. What? Did I? Oh, yeah, excellent. Oh, the beekeeper and the honeycomb. That was, what a lovely thing to do. Fantastic. So beehives and the beekeeper there. Thank you very much. Just going to download those and share those with everybody in just a moment. So this is the Pampalhosa da Serra, central Portugal. Let's have a look then. Did you get to keep any of the honey? That would be nice, wouldn't it, to have a little bit of a takeaway of the honey as well. So here we go. There they are in their, are they called apiary suits? I think they are, aren't they? There are the beehives. So he went out and collected a frame or two. And then the master beekeeper, perhaps, was scraping the honeycomb and getting some pure honey from those honeycomb frames there. How lovely. Well done, Philomena. tripsforbrits@gmail.com. The number 4, trips for Brits, and other nationalities are welcome too. Thanks for that, Michael. Much appreciated. Antonio F has joined us. What's your theory on the meteor? What's being said in the Portuguese community that we might not be aware of so much, Antonio? Wonder if you wouldn't mind letting us know. Squire of the Shires also in. Bom dia, Antonio, he says. And that wasn't Portuguese in that first video. It sounded like a Slavic language. Whatever language it was, I'm pretty sure they were saying, what the bloody hell was that? As it flew across the sky. Carl, get Louisa to talk about it. She is into outer space and nature. Is there a positive feeling on Earth when they pass over? Well, I guess it's what we make of it, isn't it? I think she's a little bit in the same area of the Venn diagram as Owen, possibly, with this. Not entirely settled about its origins as yet. I don't have a photo, says Pam. Men celebrating in the fountain isn't a novelty anymore. Yeah, it's everyday sort of stuff, isn't it? Blokes in the fountain in Alcobaça of a Saturday night, but not every Saturday night when they're in there and a meteor flies overhead. Now, Hugh, you'd have had a great view. Good morning to you, Hugh. Good morning from Visio. Not long now till Geneva, Hugh, on the way there, and I'm getting lots of notifications and material from Pedro about that. Hugh, you're going to go stick it to the man in Switzerland soon on the 1st of June, I believe. Did you see the meteor? I mean, that would have been a beautiful photograph, Hugh, of the meteor flying over your vineyards there in Visio. Still owe you a video of that. I will be editing. Colin and I are a little bit behind on the editing, but we'll get there in the end. Hopefully not as bad as the video I was meant to edit of the video gaming festival in Óbidos. And I realized when I went to this year's that I hadn't still edited the video from last year. But anyway, I'm not going to give myself a hard time about it. Please don't give yourself a hard time this morning. It's Monday morning. Take it nice and easy as we ease our way into a new week on Nova Semana here. Used to be 3 coins in a fountain. Now it's just blokes celebrating a football victory. Let's play his theme tune and find out why he's just called himself simply James this week. I think he's messing with our minds. Let's play his theme tune and have a chat with him, see what he thinks about the meteor, the asteroid, the bolide, the meteorite, whatever he calls it. Let's see what he has to say after this.
Bom dia! Feliz segunda!
Feliz segunda! Tudo bem?
Como estás? Tudo bem?
Pouco cansado hoje.
Again. E sempre.
Do I always say that every Monday morning?
Oh, almost always.
Oh man. Okay. There's a little note to self. And let's see if I can arrive a little perkier on a Monday morning.
On a Monday.
Yes, perky on a Monday. Oh, it was an exciting weekend, James. And was I right? Were you snoozing as this flew overhead here?
Apparently so. If it happened after 10:30, probably.
Bedtime. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
It was extraordinary. It was a lovely thing to see, I got to say. And of course, fascinating to see the story.
I know exactly what it was because it was confirmed on Facebook. It was the Spanish sending missiles trying to hit Portugal, but their accuracy wasn't very good.
Rascals, really?
Yeah, and it said so on Facebook, so I know it's true.
Yes. Well, please send me your source so that I can. I mean, if I read it as well, it's definitely confirmed, isn't it?
That was my source, Facebook. Isn't that good enough?
Okay, no, you know me. I need to probe deeper. You know how rigorous I am with my research. I don't just say the first thing that comes into my head.
You have to know who Mr. Conspiracy is on Facebook.
Of course I do. Absolutely. Yeah, so those are the theories so far. It was Pete popping down to the gas station to get some more cigarettes and some Mars bars at midnight. The timing's about right, isn't it? And then the ADN political party, they were using it as a way of spreading their political message.
That's a huge banner.
Pretty good, isn't it? I mean, it was going at some speed, so that's quite a technical feat, if nothing else, that they pulled off there. And you're saying it's part of the friendly rivalry between Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, just a little joke.
Just on a Saturday night.
Oops, we missed.
Release the meteor. Right. And I mean, are you fascinated by such things? I know you like a bit of, Richard Feynman awe and wonder about the universe. Does that fall into that?
Well, pretty much all things astronomical fascinate me. The first thing I thought was that this was just a repeat of the one that happened in March. I mean, I thought it was just people recycling old footage of the meteor from March. So that was my operating assumption, because I don't follow the news, so I didn't get all this. Ooh, last night, whatever. Yeah. I just saw these images. And that struck me. I said, two almost identical phenomena in 2-month period, when they say that, typically humans are only going to see them maybe twice a year. So apparently that was our allotment for this year here in Portugal. But anyway, that got me thinking. And then when I went back and looked at the one from March, it showed the trajectory in space. It was an animation of the orbit that it was on when it passed into the atmosphere. And it just really, I was going to say struck me, and then I thought better of it. And then I said it anyway, that, these are just all near misses of potential catastrophe. I mean, that's the part that fascinates me. It's like, wow.
Yes.
I mean, if that was something bigger, well, it might not have been pulled in as much because it would resist the gravitational pull or something. But it's just kind of by luck that we humans have just been toddling along since well, I guess we weren't around when the dinosaurs were made extinct, but for that much period of time, I mean, it's been that long since anything significant actually struck the planet. We think we're immune to it, but space doesn't care. It's just launching stuff all the time. It's like, here comes another one. Hope you figure it out.
Well, that's the point, isn't it? I mean, it's not being launched at us, is it?
Right.
We within that theory, we just happen to be in the way. And it's quite random, isn't it?
Well, and in fact, if we include the planet itself, Earth, is a part of the cause because of gravity. It's actually pulling those things closer to us.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That makes sense. But
yes.
I don't know how much human intention has to do with any of this, but it's fascinating to me. I heard one person say, it was a William Shatner quote that I saw because he went up into space at age 90 or whatever. And he was expecting a certain thrill of just the experience of being in space, and quite eloquently summarized the experience as one of almost overwhelming sadness, because he was looking at the Earth and realizing there's no saving planet out there. There's no place we're going to go when we destroy our planet. We'll have another place to go. It's just not happening. It's just black. It's empty out there, except for these things that are basically trying to kill us. So, well, they're not trying to, but they, I mean, a speck of dust, just a little teeny particle that's flying through space will pierce a piece of metal. It's like a bullet. Space is not a calm, quiet,
nice
easygoing kind of place. It's violent and life-threatening. So the perspective, I appreciate the perspective. I sort of felt the sadness of the statement, but the perspective of it was, let's stop dreaming about flying to Mars and let's take care of what we've got. I've heard arguments about, hey, if we're talking about terraforming Mars, and why don't we just fix the planet? I mean, then we don't have to go to Mars.
That's right. The human mind doesn't tend to work like that, though, does it?
No, we like to fascinate over all those great,
Yeah, and there's some interesting comments that are connected to what you're saying here. Most comet fragments, meteorites, are too small to create a fireball and commonly come in pairs or more. So I'm edging towards an asteroid belt origin. Thank you for that. Your sense of that, Squire of the Shires.
And your knowledge is greater than mine, so I'll defer.
Bom dia, prezados membros deste distinto canal YouTube. Thank you very much. We are prezados members. What does that mean? So outstanding members? But who doesn't like an outstanding member first thing in the morning? Thanks for that, Mr. S. Not a catastrophe. See, this is what humans do. Not a catastrophe if it lands near you. Meteorite fragments are worth a fortune. There is even a meteorite tequila made with the stuff that retails at $500 a bottle. There you go. Monetize it. And that's one way for humans to deal with any particular situation. And would you go along with the theory that I put forward earlier on? There's most of the planet, we're told, is sea, water. So, only a third of it is landmass. And of that landmass, although, we've been brought up on the fact that we are, there's a population explosion, which is turning out to be untrue in the next foreseeable few decades anyway. The landmass is quite sparsely populated. So the chances are quite low of these meteorites causing damage. And if they do, obviously, it would be devastating. But the odds are against them landing anywhere significant or being seen on a regular basis.
I would think so. And then, of course, depending on the size and the damage they would do. I mean, the one example is one, I don't even remember what it's called, but it completely flattened the forests in Russia, I think it was.
Was that right?
Several decades ago, and it didn't even hit the planet. It just exploded, I think, before it made impact, and there was no trace because apparently it was all ice. So, but it just happened to be out in the middle of nowhere, but it blew, multiples of tens of kilometers, as I understood it. It's quite a historical event. I've seen photos and read some of the history on it, and it was quite confusing and perplexing because there was no trace of it. Just this area forest just went this out in a giant circle. So, if it's big enough and it lands close enough, it does, it could cause potential serious damage. But these meteorites are small enough that they're pretty much evaporated before they ever make contact with the planet, except in fairly rare occasions. So again, the gratitude for the protection that the Earth provides us. It's part of why we exist. It's because the planet is designed, not for us in particular, I don't think, but in a way in which we are protected from this violent space that is out there. These rocks are hurtling through space and entering our atmosphere and burning up before they can do any damage because of the atmosphere. The magnetic field around the planet protects us from those solar flares that were the source for all that beautiful, aurora. That was like serious electronic magnetic energy coming over the planet. So this part of why I'm grateful so often. I think of these things and man, it's kind of like when we say it's amazing we survived childhood. It's amazing humankind has lasted as long as it has, or life in general. I mean, that is to me one of the biggest miracles. Life is a miracle. The fact that anything can survive in this huge universe is incredible.
Isn't it?
And very rare, but not, I'm sure, based statistically on what Carl Sagan talked about. He said, given the number of stars that exist in the known cosmos, it would be virtually impossible for intelligent life not to exist somewhere else. But you're talking about, trillions of billions of suns and, maybe millions of planets that support life. So it's really a tiny, tiny, tiny piece where life can actually exist according to the science that we have now. So I say, take it for what it is, be grateful every day and do everything we can to preserve it.
Yes, because which brings us to mindfulness, doesn't it? Because I think these are theories, aren't they? Of course, because they, in as much as I don't know that because it's not in my experience. I did have an experience through my senses of the meteor on Saturday night, and the two things that I've got, as far as I can tell, are that sensory experience of it, and then the meaning I make about it. Those are as pretty much as tangible as I'm or any human being can have or experience, right? And the other bit, the things you were talking about are the theories of other people, aren't they? Based on their sensory experiences and the meanings they've come to in much the same way. So, as an amateur physicist, astronomer, whatever, as an amateur human being, I saw this thing in the sky, and I saw it light up the sky, and I can be left in quite the same situation as Carl Sagan, Richard Feynman, and you, as like, whoa, that was incredible. And that's about as real and tangible as I think I can get before I start pontificating or theorizing about what it is or what it might be. The realest thing seems to me is the meaning we're going to make about it, and or the joy or lack of it that we would derive from such an experience.
Yeah, well, meaning is what we make.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there is no meaning like all by itself
without
something giving something meaning. And I don't know how complex most of life is, but humans are complex enough to be able to make things mean things. Yes. I mean, these phenomena are sources of religions and mythology and all kinds of stories to try to explain what that was when we don't understand it. And then we understand it more and more, and maybe some of those stories change or go away. But yeah, humans fascinate over this stuff. And I have these ideas from time to time. Living in California, in terms of the evolution of the United States and human movement, non-native human movement, European movement mostly, was basically east to west through the continent. They landed on the Atlantic coast and then worked their way west. And California was the last stop, right? Then you get to the Pacific Ocean. So I would have these moments of imagining being the first European explorer that crested the mountains that overlook the Pacific Ocean. And then there's a state that it's like, wow, like it's beyond words, imagining that and understanding at the same time there were humans already there who had become accommodated to the Pacific. And, it's like that's been their life for thousands of years, but there were so few that you weren't looking at cities and big gray areas and highways and stuff in front of you. It just land and then the ocean out there. So every once in a while, even here in Ericeira, almost once a week when we go into town, we just stop and stand and look at the ocean for 10 or 15 minutes.
Nice.
And every once in a while, I get that same sensation of imagining, Portuguese explorers sailing off to the edge of the earth or whatever they believed it was. Some thought it was flat, some didn't. Nothing changes, does it? But
hopefully not.
The idea that getting in these relatively tiny boats, I mean, we think, these big sailing vessels. If you ever looked at one of these big sailing vessels, it's like, it looks like they could fit about 10 guys on that. I mean, it's pretty small. And off they went.
When I go out for a picnic, I've usually forgotten something. And you can't afford to do that, can you, when you're sailing off into the unknown on a boat? I mean, their logistics and all the ones. I mean, we only find out about the ones who did make it, don't we? Generally speaking, there must have been loads who just decided to have a look and never came back, or there's no further record of them. Yeah, incredible. So here we are in this day and age, thinking about projecting out into space rather than across the seas. This is our frontier at the moment, isn't it? And a nice little bit of something to consider because of what happened over the weekend. Paul seems a little bit concerned for us. We're not worried, Paul. Why worry about things we cannot control?
Don't worry. Yeah.
We're marveling, aren't we, rather than worrying, I think. We cannot control paying our Emmy tax. That's a reality. That comes on a regular basis. Mind you, we cannot control that. Well, I guess you could become a politician and change it, Paul. But
I agree with them about control, because again and again, we control nothing outside of ourselves. Now, we can influence it if we become a politician or an active voter or whatever. We can influence what goes on, but we don't control it. We don't control any of it except ourselves, which goes back to what we're talking about. The meaning we give things, that's up to us. That's our control. We can make it catastrophic and horrible and be anxious and never want to leave our bomb shelter, or we can just fascinate and be grateful every moment that we take a breath because of just how beautiful it is and how potentially dangerous it is. That's the life we live.
Why I love talking to you on a Monday. We are remembering to marvel in the mindfulness and the moment on a Monday morning. I think we've been fact checked here, or I have anyway. That first footage apparently was nothing to do with Portugal. And it allegedly is the Chelyabinsk meteorite, is often used, that one that shattered all the glass. So apologies if that was misleading in any way. I was just going with what I read myself there. That did nearly $5 worth of damage. You would have known if you had been to Chelyabinsk there, says Pete. We did the 4K walk yesterday that included the beekeeping experience and feeding the goats that are being used to reduce the fuel load in the mountains to help. Oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Yes, perfect. Until that causes another different goat-related problem. But that sounds like a pretty good old-school method of keeping.
They do that at least in Northern California a lot. They came up with a system of where people that own goats basically rent them out to the state to go eat the grass in the places that need to be mowed, so they don't have to use gasoline or mowers, or they just get the goats out there, put a temporary fence around them, let them clear it out, and then move on.
Yes, it's what they love to do.
Brilliant.
Goats love doing that. Bit of restorative agriculture. They're pooping on the land as well and fertilizing it, and you can have some goat milk and some goat cheese and I don't know, goaty coat, a coat or something.
Those other goat things.
Yes, you can smell of goat, which isn't one of my favorite smells, I've got to say. There's some good chapters in a book called The Colbrin about a past comet visitation in ancient times. See, that makes it sound really special, doesn't it, when you call it a visitation rather than just flying over the planet?
It animates the meteor for sure.
Yes, the beekeeping sounds awesome, but goats are the devil's beast. I have an objection to goat control. I only know of one person that has kept theirs, and that was because they were pygmy ones. Looks awesome, it did, didn't it? And it was the Tunguska event in Russia of 1908 that the Squire
there it is. Okay,
going to there. Reminds me of the Hitchhiker's Guide, says Pam. You're a dot on a dot on a dot. And we are magnificent as well. We chip off the old divine block as well, aren't we? We've got that paradox to revel in too.
I'm just a speck on a speck.
Yeah, and you're a magnificent little speck on a big old speck, aren't you? It's all relative and all so beautiful.
That's Bill Nye there, yeah.
Is it?
A speck on the speck.
Okay.
Earth is a speck in space. We're a speck on that speck. It's crazy.
Yeah. But then we do have a different sense of scale from time to time about ourselves, don't we?
Well, yeah, it's all perspective.
Yep.
If you put it relative to the known cosmos, we don't even exist. I mean, we are just, we're barely a particle of dust. But to me, my life is important.
Yes.
And we do that all across the scale from the tiniest through us. Another thing humans do is we become the center of the universe. So we feel that important.
Yes.
But if you put it in perspective, which is how I give myself perspective from time to time, I say, in the history of the universe, how important is this? And that calms me right down.
There are not many things that pass that test, are there, to be fair?
No, it really calms you down if you really want to put it in perspective.
Yes.
You could even make it in the history of the planet Earth, and it's still going to be meaningless. So it's just helpful. And it doesn't change the fact that I still need to, if I want to drive, I still need to get my driver's license, but when I'm getting all, it's like in the history of the world, how important is this really? Oh, it's not. Okay.
And I don't think IMT personnel respond well to that today. If you've forgotten a bit of your paperwork. It's in the scale of all that's ever been, this is a tiny thing, my friend. Don't
This
worry
is
about
really important. Do I really need a driver's license? I mean, really.
lighten up. Lighten up, you miserable old bugger. Viewing and being in nature gives you perspective. Yes, Pam, thank you.
Absolutely.
Like being on a plane above the clouds. The sun is always there. You're just not always aware of it. Thank you, Pam. Nice bit.
I say that all the time when people say, what do they say? The sun went away or something like that when it gets cloudy. It's like, no, the sun's always there. It's just on the other side of those clouds, and they're just moving through. So.
Yes, absolutely. And Bon dia Gumpers from Jackie as well. I'm a late arrival today. You're fine, Jackie. Hope you've got your
late for
tea
what?
Exactly.
You're here now.
In the history of the cosmos, it's no biggie.
Right. That's right. No worries.
So it's only taken us 22 minutes this morning to get to the mindful moment with just James.
I like to think we've been having a fairly lengthy mindful moment, but
that's true. But
not specifically. Not specifically the what I was turning over in my mind last night is what I want to talk about, and I'm guessing it's pretty much everything is relevant to mindfulness from my perspective.
Yeah.
I was looking at the word transition came to mind for some reason. I think I was looking at my experience here in Portugal as being part of a transition. And then I got to thinking, because this is my mind, folks. So, not everyone has to do this. Obviously, it can drive you nuts. But then that makes me think, well, where did that start? And then where does it end? So if this is a transition, where was the beginning and so transition? Then I got to thinking that transition is the thing between beginnings and endings, essentially, between starting something and ending something, the transition. And then there's macro transitions and micro transitions. It's like I can transition from one thing, saying one thing to another, or I can transition from being a child to being an adult. So it's all very fluid, and the words are just for us to be able to kind of try to define it. But I was looking at it primarily in terms of this move and this challenge and joy and wonder and frustration of deciding that we're going to go live in a different country. So what is the transition? And that's what I was thinking of mostly, was the transition to me was all the complexities of the little details of trying to make it legal to be in one place from another place. And then it's like, well, then you get there and you're still in transition. You're learning a language and understanding a culture and trying to figure out where you're going to live and waiting for 2 years to get a driver's license. I don't know if I'm ever going to let that one go, but
it doesn't sound like it.
In the scope of my life, it's really not. See how small I got? In relation to my entire life, it's not important. So it just got me, there was a certain sense of compassion around being in transitions, making that move, understanding the fear, I guess, as well as the excitement for people who are new in the process of making that change, because we tend to adjust. We're further into the transition, so it's not the beginning part of that doesn't impact us as much now. 2.5 years later, I'm not feeling that getting ready to come experience of being here, right? And so when I thought of that, there was a certain amount of understanding and compassion for the excitement and the fear, and not wanting to forget that, knowing that all of us can be a resource for people who are in that. This show is a primary source of almost all of the support that I got in making the initial transition. So transitions. I think my first really conscious awareness of transition was when I was teacher training for early childhood age levels, so preschool children, and some course I was taking, they talked about how you can really help children to be ready to make the change by setting up a transitional period. So rather than the typical model is taking the child, okay, time to go. And they're like, but I'm playing, but my friends, whatever. It's like no transition at all. You go from, ooh, I'm totally engaged with my friend here to, well, gotta go. It's like, and we don't, as adults, we don't take to that very kindly either. So the idea was set up a transition, let your child know, or let the child know, 5 minutes, tell them whatever period they can manage in their head. We're going to be going. So you give them a chance to know, oh, we're going to go. And the idea of that just stuck with everything. That for me, I realized, and maybe why it was so important is for me, transitions are important. It's very difficult for me to just shift gears right now and go into the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. I need a little time to understand where I'm headed and what's going to be expected of me, or what I need to do out there, and then move from where I am to that place, so that I'm more relaxed in the change. And that's, to me, that is a perfect example of the transition and why transitions are important.
How do you do you have a sort of psychological preparation for the next big thing you're planning as part of your stay? Or
no, mostly it's that function of noticing. It's that waking up. It's so often I'm not thinking about it. I'm just like boop, 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 going along. And much of that, I guess the need for transition is less important when it's part of a routine, because you already know what to, okay, I'm going to go do this, I'm going to do that, and you already kind of know what to expect, and you're making this movement. So it's more significant in situations where you're doing something new or something unexpected comes up. And I'm not always at my most pleasant when I'm in that state and I'm unprepared. I want to know what's going on. And when I don't have that knowledge, I can get a little cranky. It's like,
right, okay.
Like I want to know. So if I can bring my awareness to that and go, oh, this thing that's just starting is a transition. And I need to take, even just a beat to say, all right, I'm changing from where I am to where I'm going. And I don't know where I'm going, and I don't like that, but it's a transition, and something that gives perspective. It'll be okay. In the end, it doesn't really make that much difference. It's just my need to know that's getting in the way. Whether I know or not doesn't really change anything. So it's that awareness. It's, again, the mindfulness, the practice of looking within. Every time something feels unsettled, every time something doesn't feel right, just take a look. What's going on?
Yeah.
And eventually you'll begin to recognize certain things. Oh, it's that again. Oh, that again. Oh, that one. Yeah, I remember that. So you don't have to come up with a new strategy every time. You just, oh, in this case, this helps.
And it doesn't have to be a full-on changing into your yoga pants and pulling off a few impressive postures, does it? It's just a moment, not even formal meditation or anything like that. Just take a moment. Just take a purposeful moment to have a look. Actually, it was very interesting. I was musing on this myself over the weekend about mindfulness, and purposefulness could equally be a word used, couldn't it? To be thinking about or to address something with what is the purpose underlying this? Am I going about this in a mindful, purposeful way, or am I just doing this unconsciously, automatically? And I think there is that unconscious, automatic stuff that tends to bring about the friction ultimately, isn't it? And generate a little bit of that other thing you talked about, which is what's going on for me right now. Hold on a minute. This is just a little bit of a discomfort that comes from the automaticness, if you like, as well.
Yeah. Well, and for me, and I'm guessing for a lot of people, if not everyone, discomfort is often a source of conflict because we don't like it. We don't like being uncomfortable. And if someone has said, we got to go, then I make it their fault that I'm uncomfortable because I haven't had time to make a transition, and that makes me uncomfortable. So I'm mad at you.
Yes.
Well, the fact is we got to go. If we're going to be there at a certain time, we have to leave now, and it wasn't wasn't their job to prepare me for that necessarily. But I might then argue, well, then it's not fair to expect me to be ready to go if I didn't even know we were leaving. But that's all the process we go through. And the upset that's caused by the discomfort is, I think, discomfort is a primary source of not just anxiety, but contention, like
Yes.
getting mad at others. You made me uncomfortable. How dare you? And this responsibility that we feel, oh, I can't make other people uncomfortable.
Yes.
Neither one of those is
Unless,
correct.
like Pam, you like a little bit of chaos, and which is a whole other can of worms to open. We need to talk to Vitor now. Just one more, a little aside on this matter of preparing people. I know British people do it as well. I don't know if Americans do it or Portuguese people for that matter. But I noticed at a gathering, a dinner party, for example, British people might say, "We really ought to think about going," which I think is so funny. I'm quite happy to say, right, I'd like to go now. And then, make the preparations to go. And some people are cool with that, aren't they? But other people are like, well, we really ought to think about going. And that might be from one of from the wife to the husband or husband to the wife. So, well, what does that mean? And I think it's this conditioning that you're talking about.
It means I'm ready to go.
It does mean yes, but I'm not prepared to say it quite like
so
that.
Don't think too long.
I don't want to seem rude or anything. Right,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's like, I don't want to keep you is another way. It's like, well, I'll let you go now. It's like, no, I want to leave.
I'll let you go now. Right, yeah. We're gonna let this bit of the conversation go because it's 9:33.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my goodness! Here he is. Olá, bom dia, tudo bem?
Olá, bom dia. Who's Slug?
It's a long story. And
who's Slug?
He was called James a little while ago. Have you changed it again, James?
Yeah, Slug got a little tired of being creative, I guess. Said, "You're on, James." Okay.
A bit sluggish. Do you want to explain to Vitor, because he may not be? I mean, there's no way of guessing this, is there?
No, probably not.
We can make a special episode on that, maybe.
Well, I think I can keep it pretty brief. Basically, being from California, especially in an area where the redwood trees are, there is a particular animal life there called a banana slug. A banana slug, because it's a big, long, yellow slug. And if you don't like slugs, it's probably not too attractive.
Oh, that looks juicy.
Yeah.
This looks pretty.
So since that's where I'm from, and the university I went to, their mascot was the banana slug. Very early on in my association with Good Morning Portugal, that I relayed that information, and
much to your chagrin.
Then slug stuff, slug stuff just started showing up and being created, and eventually banana slug became a thing. So,
well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hold on a minute. Haven't you missed out a bit? Did you mention the fact that the lady in the Dr. Bayard factory was wrestling a massive lozenge?
Yes.
You did mention that bit. Sorry, because
I didn't mention that here. I was trying to keep the story as brief as possible.
She's wrestling. I'm trying to find the picture, but I can't right now. But in Dr. Bayard's, the sweets from, I think, up at your part of the country. And there is a new minty version available in the shops. I meant to mention that as well.
One time as a kid, I ate a whole bag in an afternoon. It didn't end up well.
Oh, okay. Did it cause... Actually, no. Let's not find out what it caused.
Probably better not.
Probably better enough. Yes. Thank you.
We had some pictures of the factory, and there was a lady wrestling a massive lozenge before it's made into the smaller lozenges, and it looked like a slug. And that's the connection. I think that's how I think. Anyway, sorry, go on, Vitor. You're going to add something to that.
No worries. You were talking about leaving and whether or not Portuguese people do it or not.
Yes.
From my experience, it feels like what usually happens in almost everyone I know, family and friends and whatever. Typically, somebody will be like, "Oh, we need to get going," and blah blah blah, and then everybody says goodbye, and then 1 hour later they're still there.
Yes. That's what I thought in Portugal. Yeah, it's an hour. It takes about an hour, doesn't it, to say goodbye?
It's not to say goodbye. They decide to leave, and 1 hour later, they actually leave.
Right, okay. And then maybe a couple more hugs with grandma.
Yeah, maybe.
Amazing.
And then they go to say goodbye to one other person, and then they pick up some conversation. And
Okay, yeah. Well, you see, in the British, I think in a British setting, if that's the case, the British person will be thinking, okay, we're going to go at 10, so I need to start talking about leaving at 9. I've got a feeling in Portugal, if you're leaving at 10, you say that at 10, and then you leave at 11 instead.
Usually, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What about
Yep.
Americans, James?
I think it's kind of a hybrid, but I think the calculating is definitely a part of it in American culture for those who need to be on time to things. But there is also a tendency to say, "Oh, we got to go," and then, "Oh, let me just say goodbye to so and so," and then so it could be 15 minutes to an hour before you actually get out the door as well. I think a lot of it has to do with why you need to go. If you're just going home to go to bed, it's going to take longer. If you have an appointment to get to, it's like, gotta go, see you later, and out you go.
That's how I imagine Americans are. It's like, I gotta go. I've got an 11 o'clock, and I've got to go via Starbucks and get up my dry cleaning on the way. I gotta, and then it's sorry, that was a really bad stereotypical.
One time I read somewhere, I think it's German culture or something. If anybody can correct me, please, because I don't really know. I haven't been there, but I think it's German culture or some Nordic country where people like, okay, so if I had to be, somewhere at 10:15, and then we came across on the street or we met or something like that, I think they start with, hey, at 10, I leave.
Really?
And then when 10 comes around, they leave. Because they already set the expectation when they started talking to you. When the time comes, they leave.
Boom, done. Very good. Okay. Just in case anyone was disappointed that I hadn't showed them the new Dr. Bayard Minty Sweet, it is here next to my Winkies. So I don't know if you've seen these before. These I found in a Portuguese supermarket, which has coincidentally closed. I don't know.
I'm so happy that's plural.
Yes, but these are the important ones. The coughing man, and I would like a T-shirt with him on because I love that line drawing. And these are the new Rebosados Mentolados for this particular season, I think, as we go from spring.
Toss.
Mentolados. I'm pretty sure that was an invention that right there with the word.
Really? Why?
Unless that's Spanish
mentholated.
Yeah, it's kind of like mentholated, something like that.
All
right. Not the word I ever saw before.
Yeah, we get the gist on that. Nice strategy there from Paul. However, Microsoft has invaded my screen. Oh, they've gone again now. A friend of mine, when he wanted people to leave at a party, would go and change and come back in his pajamas.
Very nice.
See, that's coming out nude.
Yeah, that's British as well, isn't it? Instead of saying, "Can you all go now?" It's like, "Can you please pick up the hint?" Right. Also, some lovely vocabulary for us here. Last day of our road trip, my brother and Cunhada, and back to. I thought it was a typo at first, a bit like how Saudade becomes sausage, and back to Ponte Lima today for market day. Cunhada is sister-in-law.
So nice. You already recognize the PDL as Ponte de Lima.
Oh, hell yeah. And on the matter then of learning Portuguese. That's not it. We got it here somewhere, haven't we? Anyway, we definitely have that somewhere. Here. How's it going with the boot camp, Vitor? Not very well for me, I have to say.
Yep. You should be fired. But I mean, it is going pretty well. Obviously, learning a language is often very emotional, right?
Yes.
One of the main things about the boot camp, and we have had feedback from some of our students about it, is that the fact that it is 30 days, and we tell you it is a challenge, does two things. One, it shows you that it's just a short temporary thing, right? Because if it's like, hey, we're going to teach you Portuguese for a year, it's too much. And for some people, 30 days may be too much. So, okay, I can handle 30 days of doing this. But it still is an emotional roller coaster. So the first 1 or 2 weeks, you have kind of like the honeymoon period. Okay, this is going blah, blah, blah. And then, for some people, it can start feeling a little bit overwhelming. So, usually on Fridays, we have some meetings. It ends up usually being part of it, me philosophizing about language learning. And one thing I said on the last meeting on Friday is that you're familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So it's like a chart,
Yes.
right? So on this horizontal line is your competency level, how good you are at something. This line, the vertical one, is your confidence, right? So as you're at 0 and you start learning a little bit about the subject, your confidence goes way up until it reaches a peak here, which is called the peak of Mount Stupid. That's when you're the most confident, but you barely know anything about the subject. And everybody does this in whatever field, languages, skills learning, politics, right? I don't think I need to explain that one to anyone here. And then as you start learning a bit more, yep, there we go.
Okay.
It goes back down again. In fact, that is very generous. The low confidence is usually much lower.
Yes.
And the bottom is called the valley of despair.
Yes.
And then very slowly it starts going up again until it kind of flatlines. And if you notice, the expert has a bit less confidence than the complete novice.
Interesting.
Because they
Dunning-Kruger.
know what they don't know.
Yes,
And-
that's good, isn't it? And so you're
Exactly.
walking the 40 days and the 40 nights in the middle. This is where the most help and support is needed, isn't it, for people learning anything, that they are going through a crisis of confidence. And this would apply to the transition, the mindfulness of the migration as well, of course, James, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
many people choose to come here for a year, right?
Okay, right. And yes, that's absolutely right, because we are seeing, aren't we, that in this last little while, after the big surge or post-pandemic surge, there were people who got very knocked and ended up in the valley of despair. And instead of finding whatever support it was they needed, they began to question their own sanity, competence, confidence, and thought,
I'm not good at
yes,
fill in the blank.
I'm not good at moving away from home. I think I'm going to go home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where
Yes,
the
it
I'm
could
not
be.
good at language comes in too.
Yes. Yes.
And most Facebook influencers are at the peak of Mount Dumb.
That's me.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I'm an expert. I
Yeah.
read a book.
Yeah,
or
I'm happy.
a paragraph.
I've been staying there quite successfully for.
There you go.
It works.
Yeah,
for
and
me.
but here's one thing I noticed about languages, though, right? It's that, at least for me in particular, it feels like language learning has several peaks of Mount Stupid and several valleys of despair.
Yes.
It's, on my experience, it seems to be a bit more extreme roller coaster.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the reasons for that could be because on language learning, you're essentially relearning many different skills, quote unquote. What do I mean by this? So let's say you're practicing, a subject, how to have a conversation, how to order food at a restaurant. You get really good at that. You start understanding 80 to 90, 95%, if not 100% of the conversation, the audio, or whatever it is, right? And then, okay, I'm super great. I can go out. I can order a meal fully in Portuguese. I can understand everything. This is going great. I'm learning a lot. And then, hey, okay, this time we're going to learn about, I don't know, music or hobbies or, travel or something like that. And then, oh, wow, I understand 5% of what's being said now. I guess I'm not that good at Portuguese anymore. This sucks. I wanted to be able to talk and I can't. And
I
geez.
thought I knew how to speak this language.
Yes.
Right. So, and again, I go through that with Chinese as well. Maybe Chinese is a bit more drastic because of, all of the written characters. I get to a point where I look at the whole text, the whole story. Yes, I can read all of this. I'm great. And then, okay, let's see the next level. What do you mean you can make a whole sentence with just 5 of the characters that I know? I mean, a whole page with only 5 characters that I recognize, right? And so some people are going through that with the challenge bootcamp course Portuguese thing. But again, it's part of the process. And that's another reason why we're doing the 30 days, because if you're super at the valley of despair, it can be a good idea to take a break, right? To the 30 days, fully immerse in the language, saturate your brain with it, And then, especially if you're at that valley of despair, then take a break, maybe a few weeks or whatever, before really actively getting into the language again. You'll come to a point where sooner or later, you'll either be having a conversation or you'll see some video or something on TV or YouTube, and you start going, oh, hey, I can actually understand a lot of that.
Yeah.
And then that will make you want to start learning again. And then you'll start learning again, and you're like, oh, wow, I'm better at this than I remember. And then goes. Okay, perfect. I'm really better than what I was before.
Yeah.
And then it comes back down again when you start
But
learning.
I'm not that good.
Well, that's really, really helpful, isn't it? And it does connect, obviously, with what you were saying earlier on, James, as well. In any transition, this is the transition from being next to no Portuguese to learning some Portuguese. And yes, you're giving us some help here, because Pam remembers. Let's go back to this comment, because this is really helpful. Learning Portuguese depends on consistency, not great big efforts, but regular engagement, ideally daily, with the language. And I know that's what's worked for me for sure. I remember that valley of despair. It was about 2 years in, I think, when you suddenly see how much there is still to learn, for sure. And Ocean Dweller Aviva, sorry to hear this. I'm in that valley of despair with the language, that's for sure. So we'll have some more tactics about how to deal with that. Vitor's already given you some. I'm sure James will chip in as well. Pam's asking, and we've got from Gabby, we've got a love from the Algarve.
4 weeks.
Well, man, it's into week 4 now, isn't it? The last week, the home stretch. Yeah, okay.
There will actually be one extra week.
Okay. And then I'll rejoin on the second iteration as well.
Sure.
You very kindly allowed me to do that. Most listening this morning. Good talk today. Thanks. Pleasure, Erica, as always. And thank you for your correspondence over at Portugal Club. It's important to notice your breakthrough moments as well. So what else have you got for us? Both Vitor and James on this. The valleys of despair. That's where you really need the help, isn't it? That's where you need some kind of helping hand or re-inspiration. What would you, for me, I'm thinking, try a different method. I rediscovered Portuguese TV the other day, because we don't watch a lot of telly, and I was in a different environment where I could watch Portuguese news and films, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, this is good. This is a different angle. I'm not just banging my head against the brick wall. I'm trying a different thing. What else have you got for us, Vitor, to get through the valley?
Well, the thing that I'm always telling our students, and this is a bonus for everybody listening, right, is the way to learn a language, you have to trust your brain. You have to trust that your brain is learning when you don't realize you're learning.
Yes. Yeah.
This is probably the most frustrating part, because you want to see results, you want to feel results, and usually all of it happens when you can't know for sure it's happening.
Yeah.
And from my experience, it seems to happen when you're not actively practicing and studying, but rather the rest periods afterwards. For example, when you're asleep or something like that. And once again, I'll very briefly tell my example. One time I had this Chinese text, listen to it, only understood 10%, listen to it on repeat for like 1.5 hours, and the text was like 2 or 3 minutes long. Listen. Saw the translations, saw one time with the translation, listened many times. By the end of that 1.5 hour session, maybe I was about at the 10% or maybe at 15%. Didn't touch Chinese at all during the next 2 days. Put on the audio again on a whim, I could understand 80%. So that to me tells me that when I'm studying and learning and practicing, I'm planting the seeds, but they are not going to give me fruit and results the time that I'm planting them.
Yes.
And then the next day, if I go back to it, I'll seem to magically be able to understand things that I had a lot of trouble with yesterday. Some I'll still have trouble with. So all this to say, just final 2 things about this is that when you are learning a language, you won't feel like you're learning it at the time, but you have to trust that your brain is learning. You have to trust, keep immersing, keep getting exposed to the language, because your brain is picking up things that you don't realize you're picking on. And don't be frustrated that it doesn't seem like you're learning, because I can guarantee that every time you see Portuguese, every time you read, every time you study, every time you listen, your brain is creating connections. They're just not clear most of the times in that moment.
Very good. And Bob's here. Yes, Vitor, I can attest to this. I didn't believe it at first, so don't stop. And the words that were on my mind, Joan has picked up on for sure. In so many areas of our lives, trust the process. That's what you're talking about, isn't it? Because hopefully you're learning with somebody. When you're learning something, you're learning something that they know about that you don't. And they've either gone through it themselves or seen other people do it because they're teaching other people. And they know how to get from the A to the Z with the valleys of despair in the meantime. And they're basically, as you're just saying, trust the process. If you stay involved, you will get there. But obviously, if you don't stay involved, you'll never get there. So that's trust the process. I love that. Thanks, Joan, for your reinterpretation there. Anything to add to that, James?
Sorry, just one last bit, because this might be important as well.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you're feeling overwhelmed and super fed up with the language, it might be a better idea to take a small break. Don't worry about it. I mean, if you want to put it on to listen passively, go ahead.
Yeah.
Because according to Chris Voss in neuroscience, you're up to 31% smarter when you're in a positive frame of mind. So,
yes.
if you have to force yourself to learn, take a break, come back to it once you're having fun. It's important to enjoy what you're doing because that increases your chances of success.
What does that say about school, honestly? Right. But yeah, I can
that's why our videos, I don't know if you saw our listening videos, that's why we goof around and sometimes our cat breaks something while we're recording, to give you that unexpected, cheerful attitude so that people can learn better.
Videos. Yeah, that's definitely a memorable part of what you do. I love seeing the two of you talking together and talking together, relationships. This is relationship advice, isn't it? The sort of which you might not get from in life. It's very normal, isn't it, to quit on relationships in the valley of despair. That's the way of things, isn't it, in the modern world, if you like, without the presence or intervention of elders who might say, yeah, it sucks sometimes, but hang on in there and trust the process, because although you may not have the honeymoon euphoria, you could end up with something very special beyond the valley of despair there. James, anything else to add to that?
Oh, so much, but I'll keep it brief. The first thing that hit me is the advice to take a break in the valley of despair. Excellent advice. The mindful requirement is because when we have experienced something as a negative thing, like the frustration that has me say I need a break, it's very difficult unless we do it intentionally to get started again.
Yeah.
The intention is take a break so you can start again, not take a break and then quit. And it's that valley of despair that is, I would guarantee that the majority of people that quit right there with the intention of going back. It's like, okay, I just need a break. And that feels so much better having a break than it was trying to learn this thing. Never mind. And that's not conscious. It's what we do. So be mindful that you need to have some sort of a destination in that transition. Like, this is a temporary break. This isn't a quitting point.
Yeah,
and then fulfill that. Otherwise, you don't continue. You don't get to the expertise. The second observation was the peak of Mount Dum is after you've learned all the really easy stuff. Hello, goodbye, how are you? What do you say after that? That's all the stuff that happens in the valley of despair. Right. So you feel like, I got this. I can say hello. And then you realize I can't say anything but that. I can't have a conversation. It's like, okay, now I got to learn, so that place is, and not just language, but anywhere.
Very good.
And the last thing was that as children, we weren't concerned about what we were learning. We weren't trying to learn. We were just experiencing and then sleeping and then knowing more. Yes. So that is the process from the day we're born, if not earlier. But as adults, we get so impatient. It takes 7 years for a child to have a decent conversation. 7 years.
Yeah.
It takes maybe 10 more years to have an intelligent, thoughtful, meaningful, and more abstract conversation. So give yourself a break. Allow yourself the time. That expert area, I don't know that anyone ever becomes truly an expert at a language, but we get far, far, far more competent, is a long way out there. So, understand you're going to have these low places. Breathe, take a break with the intention, start again. And that's all the mindful part. This is nothing about teaching language per se. This is about how we can live a life, but it applies to language very directly.
Most certainly. That's wonderful. Thank you, James. And I just want to ask Vitor, you've become a language teacher. We'll finish off with your couple of memes and some others as well this morning, James, and final thoughts. But Vitor, the last couple of times we talked about you, we're often talking about you, but when actually with you, we're discovering that you're becoming a language teacher. You're also a real estate agent. What's been going on for you in the last couple of months then?
That's a great point, and I can address that. So I'm not really, I don't call myself a language teacher. In fact, Maria is the one that's at the helm of the Portuguese thing. To me, language learning is a hobby and something I'm passionate about because I love learning. Yeah. And probably more than learning, I love helping people how to learn. Yeah. Right. So that's probably why I've been talking so much about this, because it's my hobby and passion. But I was actually thinking, as I was saying all of this, that, you know what? Probably people don't realize that, this is just a side thing for me. My main thing really is real estate. Yeah. And, I started as a real estate agent several years ago. I moved companies since because, sometimes, even if it's a big company here in Portugal, the brokers care more just about earning the commission than actually helping their clients. And I remember one time, we might not have a lot of time, but I'll try and keep it brief. So here in Portugal, listing contracts, you have exclusivo, exclusive, and não exclusivo, or open listings. Exclusivo means that agent is the only person that can promote your property, and they take care of everything, and then, it getting sold, they get paid. Open listing, you can list it with several agencies, everybody at the same time trying to sell it, often with different prices and descriptions and whatever. Plus, the owner is also selling it on his own, because if he gets the buyer directly, he won't have to pay any commissions. And I remember asking the broker one time, like, hey, I understand that we only do exclusive listings, right? Can you tell me what the advantage of that is? And he's like, oh, because if the seller sells with someone else, they have to pay us anyway. And I'm like, right, but how does that benefit the client? Now I know, now I understand, but that was the mindset, right? It's not about giving a better service, because I don't think it's very possible to do a decent job at promoting a property if you're not exclusive, but we can discuss that at another point if you'd like. And then, because of you in particular, I started dealing with several foreign clients that wanted to come here. And that's when I realized that it's even more important to have good help on your side, because the reality is many real estate agents here in Portugal, they just want to close a deal. They just want to get the commission. They don't care about if that's really right for you, and there's so many differences. Sometimes they are small between, for example, the US and here, that people don't realize. Just a few. One, we don't have escrow. When you do the 10% down on a property purchase, it goes directly to the seller. Even if you have out clauses in the contract, which many people don't even do, if you don't prepare the seller well, hey, there are clauses here. That's not your money. Don't spend it. It can end up badly. We don't have, escrow. We don't have title companies that I'm aware of, or maybe I misunderstand what they are. There's not a lot of due diligence. It's pretty much buyers beware. There are no inspections. So that's what we help people with. We have a buyer.
portugaldoor.com to find out more about that. I think it's important to let people know that you are a real estate agent, as well as very helpful.
Yes, that's a good reminder. Yes,
that's Maria's thing, of course, mainly. So let's go to very finally here. Very finally, it's either finally or it's not, right? Well, I'll hold the videos of the Posada in the Peneda Gerês, very kindly sent to us by John, for tomorrow. And also his walk around the aqueduct at Tomar. That will come tomorrow morning. And that shows you exactly why
Found it.
The banana slug. Thank you very much. That's for you if you're feeling like that today, the Monday Lisa rather than the Mona Lisa. And James, please take responsibility for these.
What's yellow and hurts when it gets in your eye? A bulldozer.
Yes. You can't deny that.
correct.
I had to stop for a minute and go, did I read that right?
Yes. And on a more cosmic note, because this is
the mindful meme.
Yes,
someday when scientists discover the center of the universe, a lot of people are going to be disappointed to find out it isn't them.
That's actually quite brilliant, isn't it? So that may be in the post for you. Prepare now.
Bringing it full circle. Astronomy,
yes.
back to astronomy.
So brilliant. Congratulations to you if you did see the meteor. Congratulations to you if you live in Portugal and didn't see it. You are in the country where it flew across and it put us on the world map.
Twice in 2 months.
Yet another reason why Portugal's on the global map and global consciousness. Vitor, thank you so much for being here. Love to Maria and all those on the bootcamp course. Hang on in there in the Valley of Despair, everybody. And James, thank you very much as well. We'll see you tomorrow with the Quinta crew. I think Matty's got water, finally. We'll find out tomorrow. Thanks, everybody. Take care and bye for now. Let's go and have a nice cup of coffee, shall we? Ciao, ciao. Nice big round of applause.
Ciao, ciao.